A moment in history. Ukraine's president becomes the first head of state to address the House of Commons.
You now have the floor. President.
Standing ovation for President Volodymyr Zelensky. Speaking to MPs from his secure base in Kiev, he implored Britain to give more help to his war-torn country.
We will fight in the forest, in the fields, on the shores, in the streets. We will fight on the banks of the rivers, and we are looking for your help.
President Volodymyr Zelensky is standing firm for democracy and for freedom. In his righteous defence, I believe he has moved the hearts of everybody in this House.
Boris Johnson also announced the UK and the US will unite to ban Russian gas and oil. Now, it'll hit Moscow hard, but Western economies will suffer too. Also ahead. A fragile temporary ceasefire allows a few to escape to safety. 2 million have now fled. At 7, joining the foreign fighters, the Britons heading to Ukraine, but should they be there?
Have you been given a gun as well?
Yeah, we will be armed, yes.
Well, as President Zelensky addressed MPs here, some of his country's civilians were finally given a safe humanitarian corridor to escape the fighting. This is the current situation on the ground. Russian-controlled areas are shown in red. Soldiers are advancing from the north, the south and the east, and several cities are now in a state of siege, with hundreds of thousands of civilians in fear for their lives. Today, a humanitarian corridor was finally established to take some civilians from the city of Sumy south to Poltava, but only briefly, as our Europe editor James Mates reports.
After days of broken promises, today the first evacuations from the horrors of the northern town of Sumy. Though the good news wasn't to last long, only the first of many planned convoys made it out before the shelling started again. This is what the civilian population are trying to escape. Above ground, scarcely imaginable levels of damage as a modern, thriving town is razed to the ground, its people surviving in cellars and bunkers. Evacuation buses headed for the southern city of Mariupol this morning. For a fourth time, there was a promise of ceasefire and evacuation, but once again that promise was broken. The vehicles never returned. Pictures have now emerged of life in the centre of Mariupol during a lull in the near-constant shelling. Building after building shattered beyond repair, shops empty, power, water, heat, long gone. We have nothing, this woman tells the camera. No food, no electricity, no medicine. We have nothing. Despite the appalling suffering of so many women in Ukraine, Vladimir Putin saw fit to make a special address to mark International Women's Day. The only ones on his mind were the partners of the men he'd sent to war.
I would like to address the mothers, wives, sisters, brides and girlfriends of our soldiers and officers who are now in battle defending Russia during a special military operation. I understand how you worry about your loved ones.
The man whose troops are actually defending their country, Ukraine's President Zelensky, once again proved to his people that he is still in the capital, still unafraid of being captured or killed, recording himself walking from the streets of Kiev to his well-protected office. But outside, columns of Russian armor continue to advance through his country with greater difficulty than anyone expected, but still moving forward. The people of Mykolaiv, the last barrier before the Black Sea city of Odessa, are leaving while they still can, the mayor expecting a new offensive imminently.
A lot of people are moving out of the city in the Odessa direction, in the west side of Ukraine and abroad. But let's say people who can hold a weapon, they are ready to defend our city and to fight with the Russian occupants.
Russian losses continue to be horrendous and highly visible. Between 2,000 and 4,000 dead so far, according to the CIA's latest estimate. But still they move forward, and still Ukrainian cities are in peril.
And James is in Kiev tonight. So, James, what is the latest you can tell us about the progress of the Russian offensive?
Yeah, well, two significant movements we're learning about. We know that the thrust towards Kiev from the north west has been pretty much stopped for a week or so, but a second thrust, effectively a pincer movement coming from the northeast, is now within about 25 miles of Kiev, with the danger, of course, that will divide the defenders. But also down in the south on the Black Sea coast, the town of Mykolaiv, apparently the Russian army is now close to encircling that town and putting it in the same position as Mariupol is in. One other significant piece of news from the battlefront is that a Russian Major General called Vitaly Gerasimov has been killed at the front. Now, this is interesting for two reasons. It's very unusual for an officer that senior to be anywhere near the front, and in that much danger. So it does suggest that senior officers are having to go forward in order to organise their men and urge them forward. But secondly, they know that he's dead because Russian secure communications seem to have broken down, and they picked up the report of his death from a Russian soldier using a Ukrainian SIM card, which is quite indicative of the state of Russian preparedness.
All right, James, all interesting stuff. Stay safe and thank you. Well, the UN now says more than 2 million people have left Ukraine since the invasion started. And while their friendly neighbours are more than happy to help, some are struggling with the sheer numbers. Moldova is a small country and has asked for international support.